Hello, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. I am Ron Luce. I am joined by the one, the only. He says Bochy instead of Bocce, the cheese man himself, Mr. Joey Ricotta. Joey, my friend, before we talk anything baseball, dude, how you doing?
Salute. I'm good, man. I'm good. Yeah, I don't know what's happening in the background. I don't know if you heard something drop that wasn't
It's the
planned.
ghost in your house.
There's never anything planned when I get on the show. Yeah, man, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. It's Thursday. It's there was nothing to talk about from the winter meetings. Let's just be brutally honest, and it's driving me absolutely nuts. Like the gif of Dave Chappelle when he's like, "That's how I feel right now for roster moves." Like I just
over there.
need something. I need something so desperately to happen because I'm itching for baseball content, man. But yeah, hey, man. Outside of that, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's Friday Eve. Happy Friday Eve to everybody listening with us live. Otherwise, man, I'm doing good. It's good to be on a microphone with you, Joey. And you and I talked pretty extensively in the pre-show here. We got a lot of good shit to talk about. This one is a little bit of a different show for those that are interested as you're tuning in. We're going to talk a little bit of headlines. Obviously, we're going to talk about the winter meetings because I was hoping that when we planned our schedules out for this week to do shows, we were like, yeah, we're going to do 2 shows because the Cubs are going to be active and it's going to be awesome. And they didn't do a fucking thing. So it's a little different, but a little bit of news with former Cubs that we'll talk about here in a few meetings. And then we're just going to go on a wild goose chase of ideas. This is an idea show. It's a brainstorming show. So if you are joining us live and you want to be like our friend Scott here, who's saying that the winter meetings were as exciting as a Friday night in Rockford, Illinois, direct shot at Joey Ricotta here.
I agree, by the way.
If you want to be like our friend Scott here and join in the comment section, because we're going to be talking trade ideas, free agency signings, direction, all that good stuff. We're really going to get into it here. You want to be a part of the conversation tonight more than ever. We're going to try to get into the comments and really answer a lot of questions, bring up a lot of thoughts. Be sure to head over to the YouTube or the Facebook, like, subscribe, hit the bell button. You know the drill. You'll know when we go live over at On Tap Sportsnet. You can find us on both of those platforms there. If you're listening on X, we appreciate you. We appreciate you just as much as we appreciate all of our other listeners. Unfortunately, though, we can't see your commentary, and it's harder for you to join the conversation with us here during the live show. Joey, let's get into it because, like Scott said, the winter meetings were very boring. And the unfortunate truth of it all, man, everybody is waiting for the first domino to fall, and right now, that is Shohei Ohtani. Reportedly, it's supposed to be maybe as late as Sunday that he signs, so we should know by the time we jump on a microphone again where he's going. But Joey, takeaways from the winter meetings, man. Like what did you salvage from these 3.5 days of all the big masterminds of baseball being in one place to produce like 5 entire roster moves?
Yeah. I mean, you could look at it as what I've been saying this whole time is turn the heat up, Jed, please. Like,
yeah,
it's a little cold out here. Yeah, you need to like warm the hands up, start blowing in your hand a little bit. I don't know, man. It's the one big thing that happened, obviously, Juan Soto. So that was
yes.
And that was a bomb. Like that, it doesn't seem like it because he's been rumored in trades for a while, I think. But that was really it. It was that and a whole bunch of Wade Miley, Eric Fetty.
Wade Miley.
Like who are, I mean, I know who Wade Miley is. We know who Wade Miley is because he was with the Cubs. But
sure.
And it's a good signing, sure. But yeah, man, like the stove needs to turn up just a little bit. And I don't blame fans for being as restless as they are because that's what we are. Like, yeah. I think me and you, we, like you said, we talked quite a bit before hopping on here, but that's all we can talk about in our text messages, chats, and, stuff is like, please, like, do something. So,
do
like,
anything.
We're right there with everyone. I'm just, my biggest, like, I guess, takeaway or, like, what I can salvage from this is, like, it's not just the Cubs. Like,
yes.
Literally, no one is doing anything. So if you're taking anything away, take away from the fact that, like, whatever you've heard so far to this point, it really doesn't matter. We're basically back to square one. I think the other important part is these meetings really are going to set the tone for what's going to happen in the next, like, 3 weeks. Whenever he makes his decision, who knows? What if he holds this thing out to January? I don't see it happening, but
I'll cry.
it really is, man. It's Shohei Ohtani, and then please, like, let's get moving.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's crazy when you think about it, because again, I am right there with you, right? Cubs fans are anxious. I'm anxious. You're anxious. Juice is anxious. Tyler's anxious. Nick's anxious. Everybody's anxious. I think it's frustrating, not just again for us, but for all of baseball right now. Like, if you really look at what happened at the winter meetings, right? Wade Miley signed back with the Brewers. Cool. Eric Fetty signed with the Chicago White Sox. Cool. Jeimer Candelario going, old Cubs friend, going to the Cincinnati Reds on a 3-year deal. That's probably the biggest dollar value free agent signing, not named Eduardo Rodriguez going to the Diamondbacks.
That one kind of stings a little bit, but
But like,
we can
again,
talk about that. Yeah,
that's about the extent of it, right? Like, the Reds have probably been one of the most active teams. They signed a couple of guys early in the winter meetings, or at least like over the weekend, kind of entering into the winter meetings. And then, it's been a lot of quiet, and there have been some interesting moves. Again, like you said, right? Juan Soto is a Yankee, and they got a very impressive haul for 1 year of Juan Soto. You've got guys like Candelario and Erod on the move, and Fetty, who was the KBO MVP, is now a Chicago White Sox. I think that's an interesting case study just in totality. And another move that I think just, again, flew under the radar because of the nature of how these winter meetings went, Alex Verdugo getting moved across in division between bitter rivals, going from the Red Sox to the Yankees in that trade. Like, the Yankees outfield is completely almost reformed. Verdugo's probably going to play left. Center field now is going to be Judge. And then you're going to have Juan Soto playing in right field every day now out in the Bronx. So, again, I'm right there with you, man. Just the total takeaway. Scott's takeaway from the winter meetings. Biggest news, Cubs willing to lose a combined 3 players, which is in the Rule 5 draft. Cubs added 1. They lost 4. And to him, that says that they're going to go get some guys. They lost all those guys in the minor league phase of the draft, for those that are curious. So that means those guys are going to be automatically signed to assigned to the AAA affiliate of whoever it is that drafted them in the Rule 5 draft. The guys that went: Andy Weber, Adam Lasky, Sheldon Reed, or not Sheldon Reed. Was it Sheldon Reed? Am I right on Sheldon Reed? Reed was the last name, though. And Levi Jordan were the 4 that the Cubs lost. Cubs brought in a guy, Chevelle. I have to look. I wrote the article too. I should freaking know it. Over at ontapsports.com. You can read all the details on these guys. But they got a guy, minor league to second baseman from the San Francisco Giants. But they passed on their major league pick, right? So the Cubs were not very active in the Rule 5 draft. I think another takeaway is Cubs fans from the winter meetings. But Joey, let's talk a little bit about the Jeimer Candelario signing, because I think that's the one so far that's touched closest to home for Cubs fans. He goes to the Reds, 3-year deal, $45 million. He's going to get $15 million a year. That was kind of on par with what he was projected to get by a lot of outlets. Was that 15 a year for pseudo 3 years? But the Reds are an interesting fit, Joey. And this might be worth getting our good buddy Tim Daniel on to discuss at some point with Late Night Reds, because also, fun fact, Tim Daniel now a part of On Tap Sportsnet doing some Bulls coverage for us because he's a diehard Bulls fan. That one's super fun. But
good plug.
He, like, the Reds, to me, Candelario is going to the Reds to play first base. I don't think he's going to play third, because where are you going to put Ellie De La Cruz? He ain't going to play short over McLean. But where's McLean going to go then?
Second.
You think he's going to play second?
I do. So I was looking at a tweet. So another friend of the program, Nick Kroll.
Yes.
Nick. It's not Kroll.
You've got the league. You've got the league on the brain right now. Were you watching that today, Joey?
Get Kroll, the hashtag that they always use. I don't know why I was thinking that, but yeah, Nick Kirby. He had a tweet that I was looking at earlier from just like a projected, or what he was maybe thinking lineup for them, like versus lefty versus righty. And I have to go back and look and see exactly what he put down there. But I think he thinks that Encarnacion Strand is going to play first base, and that's their long-term solution there.
Sure.
And they also have Noel V. Marte, and then you factor in Jonathan India, who maybe can switch around to a little bit of outfield. But I think he's thinking India mostly on the bench, but then these guys shifting around. And Candelario, I believe you had him at third base, Ellie at short, McLean at second is what I kind of gathered from most of that. But it'll be interesting to see what they do, because I think I would want India in the lineup. I still kind of believe in him as a player.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they should probably start with Jamer at first, but maybe long-term, maybe that does make more sense with what he's – and I guess the way that he kind of outlined it too, because it was a nice thread. The way he outlined it was it's always good to really have depth. And, Of course, that's the case. So inevitably some of these guys will get hurt, or one guy will get hurt, and then you do have Jamer as your everyday linchpin at one of those two positions. So I think it's a good move for them. It really is.
Yeah, and if you really think about it, if they're going to make the move with McLean, which to me is unfortunate because I thought McLean played well at short. I thought he was really, really good there for the Reds last season. And obviously he had a crazy good offensive season. I think that was a large part of why we saw him there for so long. I mean, hell, he got called up before.
Make sure that's exact positions. I'll double check right now.
Okay. But, I mean, for a while he was called up before LED La Cruz was this year. I mean, that just shows how well he was playing in the minors. But to your point, Joey, I think that's interesting for them from a depth perspective, because there was reports coming out that they being the Cincinnati Reds have spoken to Jonathan India about being able to play first base and having him play there. And, I'm sure he'll DH a little bit as well. So effectively you have three players to play two spots. You got India, Encarnacion Strand, and Candelario to play third, first, and DH, right? Like that's your rotation of guys right there. If one day you need, because Encarnacion Strand can play third as well, correct? He came up as a third baseman, right?
He might have come up as a third baseman, but it doesn't look like he's factored in here. It doesn't mean that he can't.
But you could, in theory,
McLean,
right?
I think could play third too, though.
Sure. I was going to say McLean can play third, and you could play India at second. You could play De La Cruz at third and play McLean at short. Like, you have options there if you're the Reds to kind of maneuver and move around that infield. And again, they have so much money available, right? There's Joey Votto's off the books. That contract is finally over after he's been on their, been their most expensive player for probably since Griffey left. I think actually Griffey's probably their second highest paid player on the team now, and he's been retired for 10 years.
They were in on Eduardo Rodriguez, it looked like, till the end too. So
yeah, I mean they've been aggressive. It's funny, Joey. I saw this today. I want to call them friends of the program, hopefully future friends of the program. But the Just Baseball guys was listening to something a little bit today and pondering and gathering some thoughts for tonight's show. And one of the discussions that they had was the Reds adding Marcus Stroman. And initially I was like, that's going to piss me off, because it just is, because of course he's going to go to a division rival. He's not going to leave the NL Central. But like at the end of it, it makes sense. They need a veteran pitcher, in my opinion. I think they have a lot of great young arms. I think Andrew Abbott's an absolute stud. They've got so many other names that are on the way in their minors. But like right now, they need that one veteran player. And again, that's why they're in on the Tyler Glasnow situation, right? That's why they were in on Erod at the end. That's why I think they could be interested in a guy like Marcus Stroman, and it makes sense. The Reds have shown they're willing to spend. They've been one of the more active teams so far in what's been an incredibly dormant offseason to this point. They see the NL Central and they go, it's anybody's division. Because the Brewers,
they usually don't spend, though. That's what
right.
Like they do see that.
They do. And I think everybody in the division sees that, because the Pirates are the Pirates. Let's just call it what it is. The Cardinals they have an old rotation with a bunch of I don't want to say unproven guys, but uncertain guys. And the same lineup that they put together last season that was very underwhelming at the end of it. The Brewers are going to take a step back, because most people think that Burns and Willie Adames are on their way out. You already lost Woodruff because of the injury, and they just let him walk. So you're down to Freddie Peralta, Christian Yelich, and the boys is effectively what that roster is going to become next year. And then on top of that, it's really just coming down now. It very well could be a Cubs-Reds race for the NL Central next year. So I don't blame the Reds for going out and making moves. And again, I think Jamer showed he can be very good. I think it's hard for a player to come into a new situation and be effective right away. That's why I always feel weird about like when you buy at the deadline, right? Because certain guys are going to come in and maybe they just hit a weird cold streak at that time. And that happened to Jamer, right? He came in, he was hotter than hell for 10 games, and then he got hurt and he cooled off substantially down the stretch. So
and I still don't hold that against him. I think
I think if you would have told me that the Cubs were going to go out and they said, we're going to go get Ohtani and then we're not going to spend a whole lot of money elsewhere and it's going to be a guy like Jamer that comes back, I would have been okay with it. But at the same time, I also don't hate the fact that, for the Reds, the move makes sense. A couple of interesting quotes here quickly from Scott in the comments while we're on the topic. He says, Reds have $7 million of Joey Votto's salary retained for 2024. Griffey Jr. is still getting $3.5 million. He said, but 2025, both of those contracts are completely off the books for the Reds. Thanks for the research there, Scott. But I mean, again, it just goes to show, right? They see the end coming with a lot of this money. They have money to spend, and they're willing to go for it because I think more than ever, Joey, what we've learned from the last 2 years of the new playoff format is you can get in as the last seed and you've got a shot. It's not the baseball of old where the top dog usually gets to the World Series and, you've only got to deal with 2 or 3 other teams in your side making it. Now that there's 7 teams that make the postseason, it is dog eat dog. And it is really taking a toll on a lot of, these big dogs because some of them get cold at the wrong time. But it just shows if you're one of these little smaller teams like a Reds or even last year, the Cubs were one game out from being in the Diamondback spot. Who's to say the Cubs couldn't get hot at the right time? Obviously, their bats cooled off at the end of the year. We all know how it ended. But in another universe, the Cubs won the World Series last year, in my humble opinion, or at least got there. And maybe they get shelled by the Rangers because Rangers still showed that you need to be able to slug and you need to be able to pitch. But holy hell, man, like more than ever, now is a time where teams can go out and you've got a shot as long as you have a competitive roster, especially if you're in a weak division, right? The Centrals are a perfect example of that. As long as you get there, you've got a chance. And that's all these teams need is getting hot at the right time. And I think the Reds see that and they're willing to spend the money now.
Yeah. And, you look at a lot of the roster, too. It makes sense for them to really spend money because a lot of these guys are on their rookie contract, coming up. I mean, these guys do not – the young guys that really took off last season really were ahead of schedule. I mean,
agreed.
For them to play as well as they did and to make it interesting for the Reds last year, no one was expecting that. Where did we predict the Reds finishing last year before, I mean, of course, they didn't ultimately finish where they probably could have, but they were playing really good ball. I mean, they were in first place. This was a team that was surprising everyone, and you've got the star talent guys that have come up there. And yeah, you're right, Ron. Like, this is the time, and baseball's kind of always been that way in a sense where it's different than like NFL and like NBA where you have to be one of the dominant top seeds or you just know that team's not going anywhere. Like baseball, though, more than ever now, you can embrace the randomness of a team just getting hot at the right time. And I truly believe, man, the Cubs, a lot of things could have flipped the other direction with maybe different managerial decisions, the bullpen not floundering, the hitting not cooling down. We've already talked about that, but that's why this offseason is so important for a team like the Cubs because you really see that. I mean, they were right there. They were right there, regardless of what everybody's preseason predictions were, regardless of their overall thoughts on the team of how bad that they were. They weren't that bad, and then you are lining up the pieces. So these ancillary moves and then obviously getting the studs, you have to replace a couple guys that we've talked about and then get better than that. So it's doable. It's just a lot of work right now, and I think that's where the animosity or like the worry comes from with fans. And I get that whole side of it. I'm just, to be honest, man, I'm kind of over all the drama. Like Like everybody loves drama. Like, you like drama so
Everybody
much,
loves drama.
go turn on like the Squid Games challenge or something. Like, I don't know. Like it's not where the offseason is right now. The stove ain't that hot.
I feel that. One quick last note here on the Reds, and we need to start talking about the team that we actually cover and not our division rival. But after the Candelario signing, Candelario is the highest paid player on the Reds roster next season. Fun fact, $15 million.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Outside of that, right now, there are only 4 players technically under contract because everybody else has to go through either pre-arbitration or arbitration. Nick Martinez, who they just signed, $14 million next year, a $12 million player option for 2025. Emilio Pagan, relief pitcher. He's going to make 8 this year, $8 million player option for 25. Hunter Green is on his contract that ascends, but he's only making $3.3 million next year. That doubles in 2025, a $2 million increase into 2026. And then he's making 15 and 16 all the way out in 27, 28. And then Luke Maley, the catcher, $3 million this upcoming year, club option for $3.5 million next year. Otherwise, every single meaningful player on their roster not named Jonathan India or Tyler Stevenson is pre-ARB. Oh, and Jake Fraley. Those are the only 3, and they're all hitting ARB 1. So they're not going to make a ton of money. Like, the Reds can spend on short-term deals now and give it a shot, right? Go get Marcus Stroman for 2 years. Give him $25 million. Fuck it. If you really wanted to, you could. So it makes them an interesting team this offseason. But Joey, just as interesting as the Reds are this offseason, the Cubs are too. Let's be honest. The Cubs, it feels like the Cubs can go 15,000 different directions with this offseason, whether they get Ohtani or not, whether they, make a bunch of trades or not, whether they spend a bunch of money in free agency. Like, they can go a bunch of different avenues. And that's exactly what you and I wanted to sit here and talk about tonight, is a lot of just the what ifs. What is this team going to do? We have the opportunity of, it's the calm before the storm right now, where we can play these hypotheses games and we're not sitting here analyzing moves that have actually been made yet. So Joey, I want to open the floor, man. Like, let's just dive into this thing here. Like, where do you want to take this thing, man? Because I've got a couple of hot takes fired up and ready to roll if we want to, start with a couple of those. But I got a big one in mind, and it's a trade that I think if the Cubs make, man, Ohtani or not, like, it's a trade that fills a lot of holes. And like Juice says, we got a lot of holes and we need to fill them.
Yeah. Well, why bury the lead? Like, let's get to that hot take, man. I want to hear it. Let's get to the trade. Right at it. Let's go right at it.
Let's get to it. I gotta give shout outs where they're due, because our boy Mr. Booge helped inspire this today on the good old Twitter. And I'm just pulling up the old thing here just in case. But there's reports. We all love reports, right? And I say reports in like the font of lettering of the SpongeBob with the big nose, and he's got the hands behind the thing. You know the meme I'm talking about. That's what reports is right now. But the reports are that the Cubs have kicked the tires with a team that the front office has a relationship with, and that being the Cleveland Guardians. And we know that, right? There was reports earlier in the offseason that they had kicked the tires on Bieber, in the same breath, effectively, as that they kicked the tires on Glasnow. And this Glasnow drum has been banging loud and clear all week long, right? What if the Rays are hurting themselves and effectively pricing themselves out of what the Cubs want to do for Glasnow? If I'm the Cubs, I turn around and I go to the Guardians and I send Carter. Jed doesn't even need to go speak. I send Carter. Go talk to your boys, Carter, and tell them you want 3 players. And you'll give them a young pitcher, Hayden Wesneski, for example, and 2 top 20 prospects. I'd be very comfortable giving up 2 top 20 guys for what I'm about to say. Go get Shane Bieber. Go get Emmanuel Clase. And go get Josh Naylor. Go get all 3 of them. Because there's reports that apparently the Cubs have at least discussed all 3 of those players with the Guardians. Go get all 3 of them. Clase solves at least one of your woes, right? He's another bullpen arm. You got him. You got Alzolay. You got Merriweather. That back end of the bullpen, nasty. Then you go get Bieber, right? You get that right-handed arm. And I think they could still add another pitcher in free agency. I really do. I think a guy that I know you want to talk about, an old southpaw, I think would be a great fit with a guy like Bieber potentially pitching with him and Justin Steele at the top of that rotation. And then Josh Naylor, to me, is such a fascinating player. I finally dove into his numbers a little more because I've watched Naylor from afar. I remember when he was drafted he's a Canadian kid. Like the All-Star game a few years back was, I think, in Toronto, and he was there as a part of the Futures game. And he was an outfielder at the time. Obviously, now he's a first baseman, a need the Cubs have. But he's such a fascinating player because he's young. And he does something that, in my opinion, especially if the Cubs lose out on a guy like Cody Bellinger, he can help replace. And I'm not saying he's going to replace everything, but he's going to replace some things. And here's what I mean by that. You would have 2 more years of Naylor, right? You would have 2024. He's estimated about $7 million for arbitration 3. He goes to arbitration 4 in 25. He's a UFA at age 29 in 2026. He's only 27 years old for starters. He's young. He's actually still 26. He'll be 27 when the season starts. But, and I brought this up with you today, Joey, in our Cubs on Tap group text. I said, my biggest concern with them losing a guy like Bellinger is not so much the power, because I think they can get that via Morel. And I think if they wanted to add one more power bat, they could find a way to do it effectively. But if you need to be able to get a guy who can hit and bring guys in. I would like to share some numbers on Naylor from last season, because I think a lot of people, again, especially in Chicago, just do not pay attention to guys like Josh Naylor, right? He plays for the Garbage Guardians. He's in a city that nobody's paying attention to. He only managed to play 121 games last year, so keep that in mind as I read these numbers. He slashed 308, 354, 489. He was an 843 OPS player. Love that. He had 31 doubles. I like that number too. 17 homers, which, whatever. But Joey, in 121 games, he drove in 97 runs. He's a run producer. I don't care how you produce the runs, just produce the runs. He gives you another high average bat in this lineup, which is something they desperately need outside of Nico Horner, in my opinion, because you got that out of Bellinger a year ago. And he's going to drive in runs. You can hit him 3 and 4 in that lineup, or 5, and let him bat in the guys ahead of him. Because you'll get the power from Suzuki if he's healthy. You'll get the power from Happ for at least 20. You'll get Morel played 109 games and hit 26 bombs last year. If he plays 130 games, he's a 30 home run threat. You need, in my opinion, if you get one more player that's going to give you between 25 and 30 homers next year, or maybe 30 plus, you're in a really good spot, especially with a guy like Naylor who can drive in 97 runs in 121 games. That is a gross number. Absolutely gross number. And he, again, hits for high average. His on base, isn't terribly higher than his average, 354 compared to 307, 308. But that's okay. And again, you get him in this Cubs franchise with the coaching and under counsel. Like, he's a counsel guy to me. And then you go get Bieber, who, Joey, you and I were just sitting here at nauseum talking about the luxury tax and the penalties and how much money can the Cubs spend this year. And you said, well, what if they take on Tyler Glasnow's $25 million? What if they just take on Shane Bieber's what he's due in arbitration, which is $12 million?
Right. That's a little bit nicer, isn't it?
Naylor, Clase, and Bieber.
Is it $12 million? That's what it is, huh? Okay.
That's what he's projected. That's what he's projected in arbitration is the number I saw. I saw 12 for Bieber. But again, if you get Bieber, Clase, and Naylor for effectively a little less than that 25 mil that would have cost for Glasnow, you fill 3 needs for the same dollar value as Glasnow. And now all of a sudden, you can go out and maybe pay a little money. Because guess what? Naylor can play first, but Naylor can also DH. Naylor can play left field in a pinch if he needed to give Ian Happ a day off. What if you want to go add Rhys Hoskins to give you 30 bombs a year as your DH / first baseman? You still could. And you probably get Rhys probably around a similar number to what Jamer got. I bet you could get Rhys Hoskins for 3 years at $16.5, $17 million a year to play first base and DH for you. There's your $30 million, your 30, home run pop. Hell, maybe they get really crazy when they, miss out on Shohei Ohtani, and maybe Belly wants to come back. Now, all of a sudden, you got Belly hitting 30 bombs if he stays healthy all year. You got Morel hitting 30 bombs. Maybe you don't go get Hoskins then if you do bring back Belly, but you got Naylor who's going to drive in 100 runs.
You could go all three, honestly. You could.
You could. Because guess what? The DH was the best thing that ever happened to the NL.
Yeah, it really was.
Somebody can DH every single day, and I'm telling you right now, Joey, to me, that makes this lineup just as dangerous, especially under a guy like Craig Counsell. Look what the fuck he did with that awful Brewers lineup. Awful Brewers lineup. He had 3 players that were above league average in OPS. 3 in that entire lineup. That's it.
Yeah,
and they won 92 games. Go get a pitcher in Bieber. You can go sign another pitcher too if you really want to get crazy. And then you fucking run it. And you own the NL Central. And then you have a shot at a World Series in 2024. Because guess what, people? I know you might say, well, that's probably not likely. You know what else wasn't likely? The fucking Phillies getting to the NLCS in back-to-back years. And guess what they did?
Yeah, I mean, you don't know. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. Like, you could build rosters. I've always thought of it like this. Do I want stars? Yes. We all want stars.
Of course.
Everyone wants stars. Everyone wants studs. Does Belly fit that star mold? Kinda, right?
I would say so.
Kinda. I think he kind of does. Especially he won an MVP. Like,
he's enough of a star to make me buy a jersey at CubsCon.
I love Belly, man. I think a lot of people are looking at it from a regression candidate standpoint, and I understand that too. So we'll get into Belly here in a second, but build rosters. That's what I really. You're not looking for the best of the best at every single spot that you have, and the Cubs don't have anyone that's the best of the best at any position really. But that's fine if they're all above average, right?
Right.
If they're all above average or at least like holding steady, you can win a lot of games. I mean, Justin Steele might be the exception, right? He might be a little bit towards the best of the best. Like
5th in NL Cy Young voting.
He's up in that tier, I would say. But like,
sure.
And even him, he could have some regression this year. Never want to speak that into a microphone ever again. Not saying that ever again.
How dare you say that?
I'm sorry. And I don't imagine it's going to really happen. But like, let's just say it can happen.
He's going to get better.
Well, I could see that.
He's a friend of the program. We speak no negatives on Justin Steele.
No,
but continue. Sorry.
But no, dude. Like, I'm just looking at it, and your proposal there, your like thought. I would love a move like that. Absolutely love a move like that. Here's where I feel like it's going to go south, because then just to like the notion of getting all 3 of those guys in a deal. I think it's going to take a little bit more than 2 top 20 prospects, because Class A is that damn good. Bieber's good, obviously. Plus, they're not going to be paying him a ton for arbitration.
Class A.
They do want to move him.
Class A for his standards, though, had a very bad year last year.
Sure, but we know that guy's talent level, right? They're not going to – I don't think they're going to push back on.
Understood. I'm just saying. Plus, though, you also just think about this, too, really quick as you continue your thought. Bieber is only guaranteed 1 year. He's a free agent after 2024.
Yeah, and that's why they're not going to be – they can't be really too picky about – with Bieber, especially. Right. They want to move him. But I would – so I guess I think that you go after Bieber and Naylor. Like, let's leave out Class A. I want Class A, too. But if we left out Class A, then you could really talk about not up as much as I think it might take for that. And who knows? Who knows what it really takes? But I would love a lefty bat. Like you said, Naylor is a high average guy. He doesn't strike out much. He's a little unorthodox for a first baseman, but who cares, man? Like, Belly was playing first a lot of games last year, and did we ever once complain when he was out there at first base?
Eric Hosmer and Trey Mancini were playing games at first base last year. Let's not forget that felt like 4 years ago. But
yeah,
dude, at that point, you and me could play first base, Joey.
I just mean mostly not like bad defender. I mean like you want a power guy first, right? Like that's what you're mostly looking for. The game's changed though now. Like
Mark Grace wasn't a power guy.
no, high average doubles guy. That was
And
great.
that's exactly what Naylor was last year. And again,
Mhm.
like I agree with you, right? Class A, I understand why that is probably far fetched, and I'm okay with that. Like I'm not
You
deadbeat.
did
Like
say
you
it was a
need
hot take
Class A.
beforehand, so you're forgiven there. It's not.
Because you got Class A is under contract for at least the next 5 years. Yes, it is the next 5 years. So he's under contract for the next 5 years. This coming season, he's due to make $2.9 million. The year after that, 4.9. The year after that, 6.4. And then he has 2 club options built in for 10 million bucks a piece in 2027 and 2028. So he would become a free agent even if both of those are exercised as a 30-year-old because he's that young. So I get it. That probably costs you a little bit extra, right? We heard what the Pirates wanted for David Bednar last year. They wanted PCA because Bednar is a little different because Bednar is not signed. Bednar is under team control. That's a whole different story. Like Class A is really 3 years plus 2 options at 10 million bucks. So that
still super cheap from his talent level, though. I think. But.
Sure, but it's guaranteed money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where Bednar is a little more in flux. But nonetheless, I think when we entered the offseason, we sat here as a group at Cubs on Tap and did our kind of hot takes and predictions for the offseason. And I still stand by mine. I really do think Jed is going to make more upgrades to this roster via trade than via free agent signing. I really do. And I know that the free agent signing is easier because it's just you go get, a guy for money. And I think they still make a couple of free agency moves. Don't get it twisted. But when you can go out and get guys that are under control for 2-3 years, like that's the sweet spot of what the Cubs want to do. They don't want guys under control for 9 years. They want guys under control for 3 to 4 years. If shit goes really well, they re-sign them. If shit doesn't go really well, they let them leave. And you have the prospect capital to make these deals, right? Especially when if you're a team, let's say just like the Guardians, right? I'm sure a bunch of teams are calling you about maybe Naylor and Bieber. But like you have the inside track with Carter Hawkins. And in addition, this Cubs farm system is number 4 via MLB pipeline. Fangraphs calls them number 1.
Whew.
Like they are a top 5 farm.
Yeah,
that's
you're telling
a weapon.
Me all these teams want to trade with the Cubs. They do.
Yes.
That could be some. All right, this just came to my mind as you're talking, but could that be something that's holding up some of the market too? Because we know that there's other teams interested in trading with the Rays, with the the Guardians.
I think
like
at the end
waiting
of the
on
day,
the Cubs, like a little bit, maybe.
I think at the end of the day, it's still the domino effect because this is how I label it. Right? Talk this through with me here. We'll go levels. Your top level is everybody's waiting for Shohei Ohtani. Right? That's just plain and simple.
100%.
Your second level is then maybe it is some of those teams that kind of hold all the chips at the trading table, which in my opinion is the Dodgers, is the Braves, is the Cubs. Those are your top 3 teams, in my opinion, when it comes to trading, because you look at all the other top farms in baseball right now, they're teams that are not as close to competing, in my opinion. And I know the Brewers are up there and they won 92 games last year, but they're not going to be the same Brewers this year. I will die on that hill.
I'll throw the Orioles and Reds up there, but yes.
Sure. But even the Orioles seem reluctant to pay anybody.
Yeah,
right?
They don't want to pay. Yeah.
To me, that's a team that should be out there treating for somebody like Dylan Cease or going out and signing a Josh Hader. And they're not. They go out instead and sign Craig Kimbrell to a year deal. Right? Like even the Reds and the Orioles, because they're middle market teams, are a little more cautious, in my opinion, with their farm than the Cubs and the Dodgers and the Braves, because they're all the big ballers carrying their ball sacks in the wheelbarrow like in South Park and making all the power moves at the table, in my opinion. So I agree with you. I think that's where the Cubs sit, is in that second tier, I think. Again, everybody's waiting on Ohtani because the Ohtani is the biggest domino in this whole thing. He's the starting domino. He really is. There were a couple little moves that obviously have been made, and that's fine. Like the Juan Soto thing was completely, in my opinion, like I don't think the Yankees were going to get Ohtani anyway. So they were just like, fuck it, we're going for Soto. We're going to go get him. That's fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
Cool. It's done.
And Bellinger, too. That wipes off Bellinger, which is nice, too, from a Cub standpoint, right?
Right. Now, in my opinion, the two biggest competitors for Cody Bellinger now, if the Cubs miss on Shohei Ohtani, are the Giants and the Blue Jays. Unless the Blue Jays or the Giants get Ohtani. Unless one of those two teams get Ohtani. But even then, I think the Giants are still stupid enough where they're like, fuck it, we'll go spend on both of them. We don't care.
Mm-hmm.
But like if the Blue Jays, for example, got Ohtani, that immediately X's them out of the Bellinger sweepstakes. Then it comes down to the Cubs and the Giants, in my opinion, at that point. So again, like it's what sucks right now because all of us we got all these dreams and aspirations for what the Cubs can do, but we're not going to know until Ohtani decides who he's going to play for the next 10 years. And I swear to God, if he goes back to the Angels after all this bullshit, I'm going to be so mad.
By the way, I don't know why I even said the Dodgers either, because there's no shot that Belly goes back to the Dodgers. That's not happening.
Hell no.
And the fans would welcome him with open arms, but that ain't happening. They're not going to admit that they were wrong for dumping they're not going to do that.
Especially because the Dodgers are one of those teams where they're like the Cubs, right? Well, they'll hey, come to us. We'll fix you. If they were like, we're not going to fix them. And then the Cubs did, like, I agree with you there. I don't think they would admit to their fault.
It was really nice too. I mean, Hayward's going back there, of course. So, and they kind of somewhat
$9 million for next year. Good for J-Hay. Good for J-Hay.
I love it, man. J-Hay produced last year. And I mean, of course, he didn't really do that here, but he's great dude, man.
I have no ill will like some of the weird dickheads and Cubs fans toward J-Hay. I love J-Hay. J-Hay can do whatever the hell he wants in Chicago, man. That dude's a legend.
But to your point though, it's just so interesting to kind of think this through here. I think that there's just a lot of speculation based on very little reports is in that sense. Like somebody breathes and it's a source and it's a rumor and it's dude,
he's going there.
There is nothing happening yet. And you just need to rein it in. It's not over. And like you said, Ron, that's what people are not taking into account is the trade market, I think, enough. Because when they look at these free agents, that's what they're upset about when they don't land. Of course, Soto would have been a nice trade target, but I think that was a huge package. Like
the Yankees gave up a lot. Like that
to me, that package. What's you know what I mean? What is it?
To me, that package is the Yankees are getting him and they have full intentions of paying him whatever the hell he wants. Like that's what that tells me.
Sure. But they also are going to have to figure out quite a bit now within the coming years. But I mean, they're absolutely going to try, right? They're going to try.
The Yankees, they can be stupid.
Soto in the destination spot too. So it's when you trade for a guy, let's look at Anthony Rizzo, prime example. Of course, he likes New York. He felt comfortable there. He likes the environment, loves the fans.
Yeah.
I know that's painful to say for people to hear, but dude, Soto goes there, he's probably gonna love it, right? It's probably gonna extend. Just is what it is.
He's gonna love that short porch in right field.
He's gonna tear it. He's gonna tear it a new asshole. That's what he's gonna do.
I will say I did see something interesting and remind me to off air because we gotta keep talking Cubs here, but it's a Soto thing. So remind me to bring that up to you. We'll nerd out about it afterwards. But a couple of comments here from a little bit earlier from our boy Scott from Iowa. He says, if the Cubs miss on Ohtani, but they add 70 to 90 million in pay AAV, he says, but effectively luxury tax threshold payroll, he says, I'll get over it. He also predicted in 2027, De La Cruz is going to be a Chicago Cub. But Joey, I think that's a fair number, though, because you and I talked about it. And we said 75 million is probably what the Cubs can realistically add and be in a comfortable spot for the luxury tax threshold. So for those that aren't familiar or just haven't done the research yet, there's 4 luxury tax thresholds for this upcoming seasons: the $237 million mark, 257, 277, and 297. And obviously, with each threshold you pass, the penalties get more strict. We all know, for example, with the Mets, Cohen's getting absolutely railed in taxes by the MLB up in New York, and that's fine. Let him do whatever the hell he wants to do. But the Cubs realistically probably blow past the number one. 237, I think they blow past this year. I'm very comfortable saying that. But Joey, I agreed with you. We agreed in our pre-show. They probably settle somewhere in that 250 range, realistically, if they don't get Ohtani. Obviously, if you get Ohtani, the numbers game becomes different. But realistically, you settle probably somewhere around 250. So you give yourself a little bit of wiggle room before you hit that next penalty. That's still $75 to $80 million in luxury tax that they can add this year.
About 65, yeah.
That's still a lot of money.
That's
like
a lot.
that's a lot. It's a lot of shit you can do, right? Like, because let's be honest, Bellinger probably costs you, let's just say 25 of that if he comes back. Again, why my Cleveland trade works, you add, even if you just add the two of them, let's say Clase is not even a part of this. And even then, Clase is only what, $3 million additional bucks for next year? Or for 2024?
Money, bench player bet. Money,
yeah, whatever.
You know,
no big deal. But you could, for example, you're paying Patrick Wisdom almost the same amount you'd be paying Emmanuel Clase for what that's worth.
Mm-hmm.
You would add two impactful players for less than $20 million versus Glasnow, who's going to be $25 million toward the luxury tax. So that still gives the Cubs tons of wiggle room to either sign guys, maybe you sign a Rhys Hoskins, or make another trade.
What's Naylor making? Sorry, just
he's projected to make $7 million an
arbitration
3. Yeah.
Gotcha. Let's plug that in instead of Class A. You're still at 230 now with Bellinger, Bieber, and Naylor. Now you're at 230. You still got $20 million to spend.
And you've still got $7 million until you even pass the first luxury threshold. That's what I'm saying. Like, they can, it's crazy because, you know, they can still do a lot even if Ohtani doesn't come to Chicago. And unfortunately, I think, Joey, going back to our earlier conversation in the show, I think I've talked myself out of Ohtani being a Cub. And
I have too, and it's unfortunate, but I think they're still in it. Not gonna lie.
I think they are still in it. But I'm taking a page out of the old Johnny Nani playbook. And for any Cubs on Tap listeners that also listen to Four Feathers, because you don't listen to Sox on Tap, this is the only other place you're going to hear our friend Jonathan Nani. But you will know that, as Johnny Nani says in the wise words of the Nonathan, never get up for the letdown. That's what I'm doing with the Ohtani thing right now. I'm not getting my hopes up for the letdown. Don't get me wrong. He signs with the Cubs. You're not going to see me for 5 days because I'm going to be on a Theo Epstein level bender.
No, we're going to see you immediately because we're getting on the show. That's what's going to happen.
Well, yeah. And then after,
you're going to be fucked up. You're going to be hammered.
Yeah. I'm going to have like 5 of these in one sitting in the show because I'm going to be so stoked.
It's fine. I'm calling the ambulance before we get on the show.
It's going to be something, man. But quickly from Scott in the comments once again, he says Ohtani counteractions. He says if the Dodgers then sign Belly and Hader. Again, I think we've addressed they won't sign Belly, but for sake of the example, Belly and Hader, if the Blue Jays then sign Hoskins and Montgomery or Yamamoto, I think he's saying like this is kind of worst case scenario, right, for the Cubs. If I'm the Cubs though, this is maybe a big hot take of this whole thing. Again, folks, if you're joining us late or you're joining us in the middle of this thing, we kind of said tonight was kind of an off the rails episode. We're just venting frustrations, venting ideas, venting thoughts about what the Cubs could do this offseason. I don't want them to touch Josh Hader with a 10-foot pole.
Nope. I don't want them to make money for a reliever. That's me.
And you don't have to. Adbert Alzolay showed he can be an elite closer. He really did. And guess what? You know what I'm willing to do, Joey? Instead of paying a closer $17 million a year, I'm willing to give up that extra prospect to get Emmanuel Clase for $2.9 million next year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the thing. Like because they have the ability. This is the beauty of this. And this is something that, again, for those that are dual listeners to Cubs on Tap and Four Feathers, you'll probably have heard me say this before. I love teams that can weaponize resources. In the sake of the Blackhawks, for the last 2 years, I've said they should weaponize their cap space because in the NHL, it's a hard cap and teams are struggling with the cap as contenders. And what better way is the Blackhawks to accumulate draft capital than to say, we'll take on your bad contracts if you throw in a second-round draft pick with it. That's totally fine and cool. And they've done that. Kyle Davidson has weaponized the Blackhawks cap space over the last 2 seasons. And he's gotten some players that have actually made meaningful impacts on this team as a part of it, too. Jason Dickinson's a perfect example. But then transitioning this thing back to baseball, if you're Jed Hoyer, there's 2 things you can weaponize. You're a big market team that's willing to spend money, and you have a top 5 farm system in all of baseball. Weaponize it.
There really is no reason why they can't.
Exactly, because guess what? Prospects are prospects until they're not prospects anymore. And not every prospect works out. Like, let's be completely frank. PCA might not ever work out. Let's just call it what it is, right? Do we think that's going to happen? Probably not, but there's still a chance. We see it in baseball all the time. Like, especially the Cubs fans and the real ones remember this with us, Joey. We all remember Brett Jackson and Josh Vitters and Mike Olt.
Felix PA and all the
Felix PA. And,
I don't know how, I forget where he was actually ranked, but like Rich Hill before he had a lengthy career, and like
the list goes on
Corey
and on.
Patterson getting hurt, like, dude.
Nothing is guaranteed. And if you're the Cubs right now, especially because you're approaching a true competitive window. They were ahead in 2023. This is why everybody compared the 2023 team to that 2015 team. They're ahead. They are ahead in where they thought they would be, I think, at this point. You are entering a competitive window in 2024. You have the prospects that need a few years in your pipeline. You have the Jackson Ferrises. You have the Kevin Alcantaras. You have, I totally said his name funky. I apologize for that. Alcantara. You have the Kevin Alcantaras of the world. You have the Jackson
Alcantara. I don't know, dude. I say it both ways. I don't know.
I know. But you have the Ferrises of the world, the Alcantaras of the world. You have, some of these other guys that are a few years away. Why can't you trade, dare I say it, a PCA? Why can't you trade a Ben Brown? If you got the opportunity
to hurt a lot of people with that PCA name, though. I'm just saying.
But again, because Joey, if we're being totally honest, Juice has convinced me that Kevin Alcantara is going to be a 5-tool center fielder. And you know what PCA isn't? A 5-tool center fielder. If you're the Cubs and there's a power, really, but let's just say there's an elite player that's going to help you in 2024 out there. And the team that you call says, we want Pete Crow Armstrong as a part of the deal. But the guy you're getting is under team control, under contract, whatever, for 5 seasons. I am handing over PCA with a red ribbon and a golden ticket to Willy Wonka's fucking factory attached to him at that point. I am. Because guess what? Don't get me wrong. I love the idea of what PCA can be in center field at Wrigley every day. Trust me. But this is a thing, I think, for me with Cubs fans that drives me nuts personally sometimes, Joey. And it's an overarching thought. And then I need to shut the hell up and let you have the microphone.
No, I want to hear this because,
But the 2016 Cubs did Cubs fans a disservice. Because every prospect that was up at the top of their farm worked out. That is not what normally happens. That is best case scenario. In most cases, and look what happened after it, though. Everybody fell in love with that team in 2015 and 16. Now look at everything. Now look at it in hindsight being 2020. Addison Russell's not even in baseball anymore. He was like the number 5 prospect in all of baseball when the Cubs got him. Javier Baez is a weighted anchor at shortstop for the Detroit Tigers for the next 4 years because they can't get rid of him because he opted into the next 4 years of his deal. Of course he would. He's making $25 million a year. Fuck it. You go get your bag out, Mago, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Anthony Rizzo has been hurt, has not been the same player since he left. Chris Bryant has been hurt, has not been the same player since he left. And every single one of these guys were a part of that World Series team. That just shows you prospects don't always work out. If you can go win now because nothing's guaranteed.
To your point, too, the one guy who didn't work out, like I'm talking Russell had his moments. This guy had his moments, very critical, key situation, too. But, wasn't the most memorable thing that this guy ever did was tag up from first base and go to second base?
Albert Almora.
And he's the toolsy, good defender. That could be – I'm not saying that PCA is on that plane because I'm kind of on the opposite, right? I'm still a true believer in PCA, and I think the bat will go. I think I'm not saying that you're not, but you know what I'm saying. Really I don't want them to get rid of him. I'm not at that point. Neither do you, but I'm kind of still on the he's untouchable side of this. But like there's only a few of those guys. You can't have every prospect. So this is where we kind of like join forces. You can't have every prospect be untouchable. You can only have it for so long until you're ready to contend. When you're a big market team, you're a big market team. You're ready to contend. Like you said, in some outlets, they are regarded as the number one farm system. In my like own head, they're a top 5 farm system. So wherever you want to put them, that's fine. But I said as much last middle of the season. Like we were talking about this. You know, I really think they've made strides. And then the young guys we're not talking about, the Michael Ariases, the draft picks that they just acquired. Can't list them all off my head right now. Hayden McGeary's coming along. Like there's a lot of talent down in that farm system.
Hayden McGeary can fucking hit, dude.
Yeah, dude. Jefferson Rojas, like they got guys down there. So do not worry about some of these, like DJ Hurts. That was I still think that was a good trade. Hurts and Kevin Made, right?
Yep.
That to me was a go for it move.
Absolutely.
Made's gonna hurt, I think, maybe, but
I don't think so.
No?
Because again,
they got depth there.
You nailed it. The Cubs have so much shortstop depth. It's unbelievable. Like this is just their top 30, Joey. Matt Shaw is technically a shortstop. James Triantos, he's a second baseman by trade, but I bet you if you needed him in a pinch, you could play him at shortstop. Rojas is a shortstop. Valdez, a shortstop. Hernandez, a shortstop. Rivera, a shortstop. You have what, 5, 6 shortstops in your top 30? That's their deepest position in their minor leagues.
From second to third, because you can interchange some of these guys too. Yeah,
absolutely. And again, and Christopher Cole here in the comments is exactly right. Like they can do this strategically. And Joey, I know we've talked about this here at Cubs on Tap, and I couldn't recall which set of panelists it was, but I know it's been said. Nobody knows your own prospects better than you do. I bet you Carter and Jed have their big board list of their top 30 and said, our top 30 is probably realistically 12 guys that we really think are going to pan out. And then it's a lot of guys with the tools who may or may not. Those are the kind of guys that you deal in these trades. You say, we're willing to take the risk of them being an incredible player 5 years down the road for what's going to happen now. Because again, this is not, hey, the Cubs are going to be competitive in 2026. This is, the Cubs are going to be a contender in 2024. They're going to be a good baseball team. And again, you don't need to be the elite of the elite to make the World Series. We saw that last year. Yes, the Rangers were a very good baseball team, but guess what? The Rangers didn't even win their own division.
Don't need to.
You don't need to. You just need to get there. And that's why, you know what? And
But the path is there for them to do this. My bad. Go ahead.
No, you're 100% right. Because you look at all the other sports, Joey, and this is why I love the NHL. This is why, like, the NBA is a little different, but this is why I love the NHL, right? Because everybody says, oh, an 82-game season doesn't matter. And everybody, all these baseball fans, well, 162 doesn't matter. It does matter because you got to get there.
Right.
But then you got to perform on the biggest stage.
And you got to survive, man. 162 games is an absolute grind. You don't know that sitting on your couch, and neither do I. Like, imagine traveling everywhere and doing different series for as long as they do throughout the calendar year. The baseball season is like no other. The amount of stress you're putting on your arm, your 100%. Physical, then your mental health. Like, you got to get yourself in the right mind frame. You can't just go up to bat and be like, I'm going to hit the ball today. It doesn't work like that.
I'm gonna hit a homer today.
Yeah, like people think like, oh, you turn it on, like this dude sucks. Like it's just a hard sport, like man. It's a tough sport. It is the toughest sport not named golf, in my opinion. That's what it is.
Golf's hard. Golf's really fucking hard.
And I say that also because I'm absolutely terrible at it. So
I shoot about 109 every time I step out on a golf course. So I feel that. But no, you're exactly right, Joey, right? Like the 162 still matters for baseball. But again, it's the team that puts together. The Rangers showed everybody how you win. You pitch well, you play good defense, And throughout the year, you can hit for contact and win ball games. But when the time comes, ball go far, team go far.
Mm-hmm. You gotta have that pop.
As Socks on Taps NWI Steve always says, ball go far, team go far. The Rangers had the best offense in baseball all year. But you know who was right behind them? The Chicago Cubs.
Weren't bad. They were top 10 offense. They were top 10 overall offense last year. People don't realize that.
I still remember sitting there at Murphy's Bleachers on Saturday, July 17th for a 120 game against the Boston Red Sox. It was the only game in that series the Cubs won, by the way, too. Belly, I think, hit, 2 bombs that game? 2 belly bombs? I lost my voice because of the first belly bomb. It was that game. But I remember sitting there at Murphy's Bleachers at, I believe it was 9:30 in the morning. We got after it very early. And I was watching, they had MLB Network on one of the televisions. And this was only halfway through the season. The Rangers had the most games of 10-plus runs scored in all of baseball. At that point, I think it was, I want to say it was 14 or like 15, somewhere in that range. There were 2 teams tied for third with 10 games. At that point, it was the Tampa Bay Rays, who were really hot early in the season, and the Atlanta Braves. Makes sense. There was a team sitting there with 12 games of 10-plus runs, and they made it 13 that day because they put up 10 against the Red Sox. It was the Chicago Cubs. This Cubs team showed they can score fucking runs, man. They did it last year. Like, the team's not far away. You just need to get there. And they just need to make a few moves to make this team better.
Yeah, yes, you got to replace what you lost, though, too. That's a big
100%. Part. Right, but let's effectively say Belly does come back. If you add a pitcher, maybe 2, and another thumping bat, or Josh Naylor, because I fucking love the idea of Josh Naylor, this team can win 90 games next year. This team can get there, and then that's all they need to do. They need to get there, and then Justin needs to go out and do the same shit he did against the Milwaukee Brewers in a playoff environment and shove for 6 innings, and then you hand it over to what should be an improved bullpen this year and win games. That's all it takes, buddy. I want to give you the floor, though, because we got one more name we got to talk about.
I just wanted to knock on wood real quick with your improved bullpen. That part's the like.
Well, they got a lot of things that they're going to do still. And Christopher Cole says trade for Glasnow, and I think I would support a Glasnow trade too. But there's another pitcher that you brought up that I really like the sound of, and I had looked into him quite a bit too because I know there's one other of his countrymen coming out of Japan that's garnering all the attention, and that is Yoshinobu Yamamoto, which is also, by the way, one of the greatest names in all of baseball.
Yeah,
but there's another guy who might be just as good. He's a little older. Probably costs a lot less, but might look really good in a Cubs uniform. And Joey, you were all in on this guy, and I want to hear your thoughts on him. Please present your idea, sir.
Yeah, I just think he's not going to get he's not going to get the money that Yamamoto is going to get, which is automatically makes him like a little bit more appealing with all the moves that the Cubs have to make, right? So if you want to add a big impact bat, you're not going to spend that much, I don't think, on a pitcher, which just get them all. Everyone, yeah, okay, I understand that. I'd love to have them all. But do you really want to pay $300 million for what is some teams are saying could cost for Yamamoto? I don't know if that's actually going to be the case. Maybe it'll be like settle around $250 million. Who knows? But I feel like that's a big risk. No, he's a young pitcher, but we're talking like grind of travel coming from Japan. Now you're really put through the ringer. It took Seiya time to adjust. He's not a pitcher, but it's taken a lot of these players, not just position players, but pitchers, some time to adjust. Kodai Senga was terrific last year, right? We all wanted Kodai Senga on the Cubs and proved to be right on that sense. Like that was one of the things I think initially I just look back on like Kodai Senga was kind of a whiff. You kind of whiffed on Kodai Senga, but looking back on, I don't remember his exact contract or what he ended up getting, and maybe we can pull that up.
I'll get you some numbers. Continue.
Yeah, but Imanaga, he's a lefty with a huge arsenal. Like, he doesn't blow you away. He's got like 91, 92 mile per hour four-seam fastball, but he can ride it. He can throw it low. His command sometimes isn't the greatest, but he still throws a lot of strikes. He has above average strikeout stuff. Like, his just weaponry between the sweeper, he's got a little slider, like traditional slider, the breaking ball that he kind of once in a while throws, but he throws like three different types of a splitter / changeup, like three different grips from what I've been reading.
So gross.
Sports Info Solutions too, by the way, .com. If you want to check out the article I was looking at too, and just doing a little bit more research on this guy, but he absolutely, man, like just the profile and just looking at the way the pitches move, he's got above average like vertical break with his fastball. This, like I said, the sweeper and the traditional slider. He can just move it around, and I don't know if he's a high level ace type of pitcher that's coming over. I wouldn't say that. I'd say somewhere in that 3-4 tier. You know, maybe he winds up being like kind of a number 2 guy. Who knows if he can kind of pitch to the way he's pitched over there in Japan the last couple of years. But I just think this guy's not going to cost too much. And I'm going to look at his median projections, but he would fit in really well, especially if you go and make that trade for, let's say you get Bieber. You got Bieber
or Glasnow, either one of them.
Or Glasnow, right? You got 2 lefties now. Jordan Wicks, 2, still around, so maybe 3. Then you got Hendricks, obviously, and Taillon, bounce back season, baby. We'll see about that. But
I'm in that camp too. I think Taillon has a much better year this year.
He's working hard, man. He's definitely working hard. You can watch just the videos in his training.
Oh yeah,
all these guys do in the offseason. Let's not twist it like he's the only one doing that. But like, I really appreciate the guys that are like showing you like, hey, I'm here. I mean business. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm working, man.
I'm working. Yeah, like
he's my like, money.
I know I sucked last year. Basically, that's what he's showing us. I know I sucked last year. I know I need to be better. And but back to Imanaga, don't you think that'd be just like such a solid fit? I need to look at his median projections here for contract, but
he would. And while you do that quickly, Kodai Senga was 5 years, $75 million, so he's getting $15 million a year. He's got a vested $15 million for that last year. So
that's a freaking steal, man. That one stings to me.
Yeah, that's such a good contract. But again, referencing the Just Baseball guys today, they brought this up, and I loved the comparison, so it's worth sharing. They believe Tyler Glasnow is a Cub, and this was their thought process on that because they also thought Shota Imanaga made sense going to the Cubbies. Think about this as your 1, 2, 3 if you're the Cubs.
Oh, they were saying both too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, yeah. Nice. All right.
So let's say they get Imanaga and they trade for either Glasnow or Bieber. At this point, in my opinion, those two are interchangeable. Justin Steele's your ace. He pitches day 1 every 5th day. We all know what Justin's arsenal is, right? The movement on the fastball, that fastball slider combination. He's been working, as he told us here in the offseason last year, and I hope we get to talk to him again this offseason and see what he's working on now. But he was working on a little bit of a changeup. He was working on some other grips and some different movement. You got him day 1. Then you got the big righty comes in, whether it's Glasnow or Bieber, throwing hard, throwing just nasty shit, because that's what those two do. Then the 3rd day, you throw out another guy that resembles a lot of what Steele does, in the sense of Imanaga and Steele do not throw traditional 4-seam fastballs. They don't. Everything moves. How fucking frustrating would that be if you are a hitter in a 3-game series and you have to see those 3 to know day 1 you're going to have to see a fastball slider that looks the exact same coming out of the hand, to have to do the exact same shit on the 3rd day with a guy that throws 3 different variations of a fucking changeup.
I didn't think I could be talked into this any more than I've already was.
That's frustrating as fuck. And but Joey, I thought the same thing today. I said, ooh, you know what? I do like that idea, because that fits what the Cubs like to do. Because you know what a guy that throws 3 variations of the changeup is going to get? A lot of ground balls. Yep. You know what is really good on this Cubs team? Guys that pitch to contact, because you got 2 Gold Glovers up the middle. And if you add, whether it's Morel at third or you add at third a guy like who's been the rumor mill like Chapman, who's a 4-time Gold Glover, you're going to play good defense behind him. That looks really, really fucking good at the end of the day, man.
And let them work their magic with him, right? Because you're gonna get over here, and they're gonna be, oh yeah, baby,
baby.
Let him throw. Let him start pitching inside. I'm sure he's challenging hitters over there, but let him start. Okay, you need to focus on this. Do what Steele did. Start focusing on the inside part of the play and let things play off each other. You can find your groove that way. If they start tweaking with him just a little, a tad, all of a sudden that K rate in the command, because I think what I've been reading about him is the command sometimes in hitters counts can be a little bit wonky, and you're gonna pay if you're in the big leagues and you're missing in hitters counts. But maybe that's a mixture of you need to switch up pitches too. You don't throw a fastball on a every 3-1 count, every 2-0 count. You need to do some mixing and matching. But I do love the idea of get them over here, tinker around a little bit. All of a sudden, we got 5 horses that we can depend on. Maybe every single, throughout the season.
Yeah. I mean, there again, I think, Joey, what we've come to the notion here as we approach as we actually pass the 70-minute mark.
I knew we were going to do this.
I knew we were too, and it's totally fine. But as we pass this, I think what at the end of the day, all of our conversation comes to is the Cubs have options. And I think a message from me, and Joey, if your message is different or you want to add to it, please do. But I think the message from me is don't panic. Yes, things are taking a lot longer than we all want them to. And again, that's all related to Shohei Ohtani. There's nothing we can do about that. But as soon as Ohtani makes a decision, the floodgates are going to open. Whatever, I'm willing to bet a fair sum of money that after Ohtani's news is dropped, there are 15 transactions of some type within 48 hours of him signing. It's gonna happen. Everybody's just waiting to see where he goes, because at least for the top teams who are going to be the most active players, and I think the Cubs are absolutely one of those teams, Ohtani dictates what route you go. Oh, you got him? Okay, well, that changes what you do versus, oh, we missed on him. We got to go to X, Y, and Z now. Patience. And I know it's hard. I'm impatient as hell right now. I see an X notification go off because I have every beat reporter on my freaking Twitter alerts. And I as soon as I see the logo, I'm immediately staring at my phone, wondering what's happening, praying it's a Jeff Passan bomb for, Ohtani going somewhere. But patience. And
we're getting too many boob farts, not enough Passan bombs.
Too many boob farts, dude. It's so bad. I'm over Boob Nightingale, man. The boob curse is so real. I hope he keeps saying the Cubs are out on everybody, because that's just going to mean they're going to get everybody, because it's real, man. We've seen it time and time and time again. There's no beat reporter in baseball that has that same effect that Bob Nightingale does. I don't know what crazy? It is, man.
I don't know how he just gets it wrong.
It's the boob effect.
He's got the White Sox right, though, for some reason. I don't understand. See, to me, it seems like sometimes he gets the White Sox stuff, but he doesn't have any Cubs sources. It doesn't seem.
No,
I don't know.
I had something I would say. I'm going to keep it to myself though, because it'd be a little mean. But
I don't want to bash that. I'm whatever.
No, he's working hard. I respect the hustle, but at the end of the day, man, it is what it is. This might be a good little end of the show here, Joe.
That's kind of cool, Scott. I like that idea.
Rate your MLB insider reporting. Give me the top 5, Joey. Who are your top 5 go-to reporters?
Man, this is actually really hard because I only trust 2. I trust
Who are your 2 then?
Passan and Rosenthal. That's it.
Passan and Rosenthal. Okay.
Those are the 2 that I go to for everything, and I all the others I will look into the reports. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
If it's Cubs stuff too, that expands a little bit. It expands much more for Cubs, just Cubs reporting. For
Jesse
baseball,
Rogers. Yeah.
You know what I mean, though. Yeah. Yes. I don't know about, but yeah, it does kind of expand to the Cubs reporting world. But Rosenthal, I would say 1, or Passan 1, and then Rosenthal 2. My bad. What do you
I think if I had to go in reverse order, number 5, I would say is probably Rogers, Jesse Rogers. Or
Interesting.
no, he's probably my number 4. My number 5 is probably. Oh man, see, this is hard. Heyman maybe might be a
5 would be
5.
Heyman. Yeah,
I'm ranking him
fair.
higher than Bob.
You
I'm
have
ranking him
to,
higher
right?
than Nightingale. So
Yeah.
Heyman's probably 5. Rogers is probably 4. My number 3 is probably Morrissey, John Morrissey. My 2 is Rosenthal. My 1 is the GOAT, Jeff Passan. 100% Jeff. I watched something today in one of the content things that Passan's willing to do as a beat reporter, and that dude's just fucking hysterical. I love Jeff. Like, honestly, if Jeff Passan went up I feel like he'd be a hysterical stand-up comic.
Probably could. I mean, dude,
the way he fucking roasts people on the internet is like my favorite thing in the
X
world.
Machine.
It's the best. Absolutely the best. Jeff Passan cracks me the hell up. I absolutely love Jeff. And Scott asked Buster. Maybe Buster's probably my 5 over Heyman. Buster only.
He's up there. He's within the circle.
He's a good one. But I agree. I agree with you though, Joey. I think my top 2 for sure though, Rosenthal and Passan for sure. With Passan being the GOAT. Anytime I see a Passan tweet, I get excited.
Yeah, I know. We need a Passan bomb. Come on, baby.
We need a Passan bomb. I was really hoping to pick up my phone there and have a Passan bomb waiting.
As soon as you said it.
Just being live, that would have been absolutely epic. Joey, I want to turn it over to you, buddy. We're hitting the 80-minute mark here in just a moment. Final thoughts, man.
I'm hungry. I need some food. Like literally right now, I'm really hungry. I have not eaten. And
I also have not.
Like on the other side of that is like I'm hungry for some players, some action. Let's get some players in the building. Let's make some moves. I'm not mad at the Cubs for not making these moves yet. I'm not even worried necessarily. I just want something to happen somewhere tonight, so then we can kind of see. Just Ohtani, make your decision, man. I'm not gonna bash you. We want you. Just make this a lot easier. Just make your decision, please.
I'm right there with you, man. My final thoughts are Shohei, just pick, brother. We'd love you in Chicago. Don't get me wrong. I won't boo you if you go somewhere else. I think Ohtani's a great player. He's great for baseball. Just pick, man. You're holding up a lot of excitement. That's all it is. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see what the Cubs do. I really am. I cannot sit here and tell myself like some of the naysayers that I've seen in the Cubs world of the internet that say like this Cubs team's not going to do anything. I think that's the biggest horseshit comment that you can say as a Cubs fan because they're going to do something. They're finally in the black after all the investments to Wrigleyville. And for those that don't understand what that means in accounting speak, if you're in the black, that means you're making money. They're in the black. They're finally in the black. They're not in the red anymore. They're going to go spend money because guess what? Tom and Jed both know that if the team's good, Wrigleyville's bopping, and that's just more money in the Cubs' pockets for the future.
Absolutely.
The sports book's done. Everything around Wrigley's done. They're done, baby. That's Wrigleyville from now on. It's a party destination on the north side of Chicago. And what better way to get people in the building than to go spend money and have a competitive team?
Shohei Ohtani.
Hey, maybe,
man. I don't know. I just don't want to lose hope. Let's see.
I'm excited to see what the next route is, and I hope that by the next time we jump on a microphone, sometimes next week, something significant has happened, and we're gonna sit here and we're gonna talk about it, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. Also, quick, in case people are looking, it's close to the holidays, and everybody wants some good stuff. Check out our friends over at Homage. HOMAGE if you're not familiar, but these sweet ass t-shirts. This one says the friendly confines. You can't see it because I can't get that tall sitting in the seat. They're the most comfortable t-shirts I own personally. They're great. They're one of a partner of ours, so be sure to check them out. Be sure on the lookout for any gift guides that come out from OnTap Sportsnet. Those will have some affiliate links for you to follow. If you want to support OnTap Sportsnet and support our friends over at Homage, you can follow those links, get some cool t-shirts, get some cool merch. They got great shit, man. Go check them out. They got a lot of cool Cubs stuff. If Belly resigns, I'm 100% getting the MLB Jam Bellinger Swanson t-shirt. That one's a must. That one's a must buy if Belly comes back to the Cubs on a long-term deal. So be on the lookout for that if that happens. But definitely check out our friends over at Homage as well. They also, for the Bulls fans in your life, dropped a bomb-ass satin starter jacket. They're going to go quick.
I need to check that out.
Well, Joey, for people like you who haven't seen it yet, I encourage you to go to ontapsportsnet.com and you can learn more about it there. We published a piece about that great drop from our friends over at Homage just today. So be sure to go check that out. And as always, Cubs fans, we are one of two official Cubs podcasts here at the OnTap Sports Network covering your Chicago Cubs. Check out our friends over at the Dinger podcast. We actually tried to get a pair of our friends from Dingers on the show with us tonight. Unfortunately, they weren't able to join us, but be on the lookout for crossover content with our friends over at Dingers. Be sure to follow them at Dinger Cubs on the socials. Be sure to follow us as well at Cubbies on Tap on all the social platforms. He's at Joey Knows Nothing. I am at Loose on Tap. Be sure to follow all of our other great co-hosts as well at Teddy Freddy 270, Juice on Tap, and Nick _ on Tap. The countdown's coming, Joey, as we talked about on our last show with everybody. CubsCon is right around the fucking corner. We're excited about it. We hope you guys are too. If you're going, be sure to let us know that you're going. We'd love to meet up with everybody, get to know people. Again, just become friends with more people in the Cubs community, because that is absolutely our goal at the end of the day. And check out all the other great coverage here at OnTap Sportsnet as well. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, we got it all. Bears on Tap was live earlier this week. The Hawks guys should be live either tonight or tomorrow following this last two games for the Hawks, and the Bulls guys are live after every single Bulls game. And again, Cubs fans, you got friends that like the Southsiders, so do we. Send your friends to our friends. They can be friends over at Sox on Tap. OnTapSportsNet.com, at OnTap Sportsnet on the socials. The OnTap Sports Network. Go and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. Joey, Scott says, here's my hashtag FTC plan. Trade for Arenado, sign Jack Flaherty and Harrison Bader. That would be an LOL moment. But Joey, what do you say, buddy? We got out here the only way we know how. That comes on tap.
On that note, Scott, everyone else listening, we always say, fuck the Cardinals.
And let's go,